Danny, first chance to talk Manchester United with you. First things first, day one they lose to Brighton. Did you see that coming?
I had a feeling that Brighton are a good side and they're very comfortable in what they're doing. And I expected United to try and play, but they were coming up against a side that are already established in the way they want to play. So I didn't think they'd lose, but I thought a draw might happen. I thought they started okay, and then they lost confidence in what they were doing. They became very confused whether they were going long, whether they were going short, and the players got nervous. They were losing the ball on Brighton's press. They started hiding away a bit, and some of the defending for the goals, my God. I mean, I know some relationships are new, the centre-halves, for example, but they were crossing over each other. The communication was poor. Some of the midfield, the lack of tenacity in the middle of the park at times, and even in wide areas, they didn't do the basics, and they lost any cohesion of what they were trying to do. I couldn't see what they'd been working on pre-season. It went to pots if they had been working on something. I'm sure they have, because he's a good coach.
So big question marks, in other words. And not least, Danny, some of the transfer targets that they're hearing about now, because the clock is ticking towards transfer deadline day. No sooner had they started negotiations, Danny, United reportedly pulled out of their pursuit of Marko Arnautovic, Bologna's price point, and complaints from fans regarded as contributing factors to United's decision. Complaints from fans. In other words, they're saying, Arnautovic, with all due respect to him, you got to be doing better than that.
Yeah, well, there's a few things they weren't happy with, things off the field, weren't they? But
were you surprised when you heard you were going after him?
Well, they're not shopping in the same market as Liverpool and City at the moment. They can't attract that type. So, I mean, they paid a big money, but at the moment they have to find a diamond in the rough. They have to find. There's not a ready-made striker out there for them to go and get. Lewandowski's gone. Would he have gone United anyway? No, he's gone to Barca. The top boys are at the top clubs, and United at the moment aren't one. They're a huge club, but they're not playing Champions League, which is unattractive. So they have to find somebody who's going to come in and score some goals for them, because it looks like Ronaldo still wants out. So yeah, I was a little bit surprised, because he's not exactly prolific, although he is a presence.
Yeah.
The surprising thing is the change of mind, because you'd think the manager would have had a say in wanting him, and if he's adamant on the players he wants, you have to worry a little bit for him if the hierarchy are changing the mind based on a minority and based on an opinion from the fans.
Yeah,
that's a little bit concerning. But yeah, it looks like the good news is for United, actually. I was reading this morning, the Rabiot deal looks like that could be done.
And you rate him?
Oh, he's a good
Is
player.
that an upgrade? 17 million.
He's a good player.
All right.
He's a 6'2", silky left foot. He can mix it. Gets the odd goal, but not prolific. But he's a good player. Good player.
Okay, I mean, Simon, I'm coming to you about events off the field, stock exchange type events. But what about that in the back of the Sun this morning, Danny? Fed up United players becoming increasingly annoyed by Ronaldo's antics. A number feel that he's sapping the spirit in the camp and would prefer it if he left. Is that a leak to a newspaper? Do you think? Do you think that is actually the case? That get him out. We're fed up with him.
It looks that way. It looks that way. I don't know the source, but yeah, I think they don't normally write stories like that without some foundation. I think you do get a bit like that at times when one player becomes the focal point of everything, whether it be media, whether it be on match days, not even starting and all the cameras are on him. Sometimes it releases other people to become the bigger themselves, the more. I mean, the best example probably, and not for the same reason, is Jordan Henderson at Liverpool, the person and captain and player he became when Stevie left. It wasn't that he didn't get on with Stevie, because I know they're still friends, but it was more the fact that he obviously felt freer to be himself. And I think some of the United players, there is a notion, I was listening to Graham and Simon talk on Monday about, Ronaldo helping others because of his great example. And all. I think that's gone. I think that's gone a little bit. I think you've now got a group of players generally at most Premier League clubs who have a wonderful work ethic and I do agree you need some senior players. I think Graham was talking about that. He's right on that. But yeah. I don't think Ronaldo is the perfect example to be looking up to right now. Interesting,
Danny. Interesting you say that. Simon, 10 years since United was listed in the New York Stock Exchange, and that time the Glazers have taken more than 100 million in dividends.
Sure.
So the share price at 5 o'clock yesterday was $11.35. It was 19% lower than when it was launched. at $14. I mean, what should we read into stocks in a volatile market?
Precisely that. This time last year, September last year, they were at $21 a share. Because they just signed Ronaldo and everyone was jumping up and down thinking this was a wonderful transaction. United are in the doldrums. They've got a preposterous group of players that are not doing their jobs. They've got a new manager that's come through the door that's not finding his head. They've got owners that are absolutely being vilified, rightly or wrongly. And so they're in a state of flux. So you would expect their share price to be in the toilet. Given the predominant shareholders of the Glazers, they're the ones that are actually having their value decrease at this moment in time. And the market is down everywhere. With the exception of oil prices. So with that in mind, I don't think you'll take much notice of it.
Well, United's overall values dropped from $2.2 billion in 2012 to $1.88.
And BT's value, and BP's share price last year was £2.70. It's now £4.50. The world trade changes. If Man United start getting their act together and start becoming a more cohesive unit and moving past this constant diatribe about how poor they are and what they're currently doing on the pitch and this useless group of players that actually should be listening a little bit more to Ronaldo. I'm not in the Ronaldo camp. I never was. Right, but with due respect, if the manager wants him, then which he seems to have wanted to because he's talked about it, and I don't imagine he's towing the party line because he came out very early and said he wanted Ronaldo, and Graham made some case, and I don't know if I subscribe to Graham's view that he'd actually done it, but Graham made a case. I'd have flown around the globe, sat down with him and pitched him a woo and told him it was a different Man United now that I'm here. I'm not sure Graham would have done because player power is one thing and owning the space that you're managing is another.
But what about fan power? The fans saying no to Arnautovic. You ever heard of that? Did you have that at Palace at any time? The fans got on to you and said, look, you're after so-and-so, don't go there.
You can't compare the scale of Manchester United to most football clubs because the uniqueness of that football club is something that pales other clubs into insignificance. The fans are the story right now. They have been the story for a long time. I'm interested to see how that found itself in the newspaper, given there were some very strict guidelines put down by Ten Hag about who talks to newspapers and how they talk about things. And this group of players, if they're feeling fed up with Ronaldo, they want to be spending more time looking at their own puerile, putrid performances because it's those guys that are letting the team down.
I think this conversation wears thin a bit about the uniqueness of Manchester United.
Oh, but they are.
I know you say that. So
there's no club in the world.
Well, I'm about to ask Danny. What's the bigger club, Liverpool or United?
Well, my experience of travelling the world is both. They're equally huge in terms of their support around the world. They're the two, I'd say, in English. Everywhere I go, Liverpool, Man United, all over the planet.
Manchester United globally are a bigger club than Liverpool. Liverpool stole a march on modern football by dominating the 70s and 80s. When the big league came round, the Premier League, who were the poster boys of the Premier League? Coincidentally, Manchester United. When you think of the Premier League and you think of its formation, you think of its formative years, and you think of Manchester United being at the front of the queue. And you think of them today. But by the way, every column inch, every yard, every news story, every inch and every scintilla of broadcasting space is occupied by Man United's success, failures, fans, ownership model, players, share price. Name me another club that has that good and bad level of interest in it. And that drives eyes on the prize. That drives everything about Manchester United. They go and do deals. They don't have to go to Etihad, a company they already own, to get the owners already own to get a £50 million shirt deal. They go to TeamViewer or to Chevrolet.
How would your argument go down, though, if you walked down the Ramblers today in Barcelona and you said, United, biggest club in the world? Do you agree? Of course they wouldn't.
Okay. Well, let's run your argument then. Barcelona were £500 or £600 million in debt. You said they were in meltdown. Right?
They were.
Man United are £500 or £600 million in debt. It's 10% of their worth and doesn't even touch the sides.
Barcelona's own president said they were in meltdown.
But go to the point that you're making. Well, they weren't, were they? Because they restructured. But the bottom line is that they were £500 or £600 million in debt. Man United are £500 or £600 million in debt. Doesn't touch the sides.
Yeah, but they're just semantics, aren't they? Ultimately,
no. But we're talking about the argument is if you're in Barcelona and someone said to you, Man United are a bigger club than you. Well, look at the scale of Manchester United. Look at the opportunity. Look at the league that they're playing in. Look at the commercial deals that they do. Look at the endorsements they have. And look at the revenues they generate. And look at the players they've signed. And then look at Barcelona and say, well, okay, where are you at the end of this particular journey? Your journey has evolved to such a point that you can't even pay your players on the way out.
Manchester United fans would change their tune if Lewandowski walked through the door today.
No, Manchester United wouldn't change. Man United fans wouldn't change their tune if they signed Lionel Messi.
Arnautovic,
if they would
Lewandowski.
If they signed the Man United fans wouldn't change their tune if they signed Lewandowski, Mbappe. If they signed Neymar, if they signed everybody they wanted to sign, they'd still turn around to the Glazers and say, "You're toxic vampires, and we don't want you anywhere near the club."
And also, if he is planning on keeping Ronaldo just on a football level, then Arnautovic would make sense, or a player like that, because why would you be bringing in someone who's not going to play, someone off the bench? You want strength in depth.
So would you have him as a United fan as opposed to not having him?
Well, I think it's a difficult one because he's not good enough for the hassle. You know, if you're bringing in a world superstar who knows going to get you 20 goals a season, you put up with the bits off the pitch, don't you?
Right.
You bring in Cantona, he wins you the league, but then he does what he does, you put up with it.
Okay.
Arnautovic isn't.
But you
Cantona.
never knew. Nobody ever thought that Cantona was going to walk through the door. He was getting out of Leeds for a variety of reasons, right? And no one thought.
Interesting.
Not the United fans.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the TalkSport app and on your smart speaker. TalkSport.